So, ChatGPT and its millions of users is out here writing training programs now. That's cool. Not a problem. I'm glad people are getting fit. And apparently, that means coaches, just like me, are obsolete. Personal trainers, like myself and my fellow peers, irrelevant. We're not needed anymore, right? As long as someone has a Wi-Fi connection and the right prompt, they can come up with just about anything they need to get jacked, to eat well, to get results, right? Listen, guys, I'm a strength coach. I have been for almost 20 years, right? If you can't tell by my traps, I lift weights from time to time. I might know what I'm talking about. And I want to share with you my thoughts on this whole AI situation, because while AI is doing a lot of things right in the health and fitness space, they're also not doing things completely right. There is still space for the human component, especially as it relates to health, fitness, and coaching. And that's what we're going to get into today, because I think this is important to recognize the elephant in the room, because AI chat for my fellow coaches, it's not going anywhere. But for everyone else who is just the enthusiast or just trying to get a little bit fitter, trying to do a little bit better, maybe lose a little bit of weight, AI may seem really tempting. And I just want to make sure you've got the information you need to understand what you're getting yourself into when you start talking about what the hell you're doing on these LLMs and pyramids. No, wrong thing. Not an MLM, an LLM. So, let's start off by talking about the question that I get fairly often. And I get it from my friends, I get it from people I meet out at social events, I get it from random strangers who figure out that I'm a trainer, and they want to ask me these questions. So I know I've been through a couple of these, but this is one that comes up from time to time, and it comes up pretty often, right? So the question is, if I can just pop all of my info into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever and get a training program, why on earth do I need a coach? And the honest answer that I give everyone is you don't necessarily need a coach, right? It's not necessary. If you can get the right prompt, asking the right questions, and you have the knowledge to recognize the need for adjustments in that plan, then you're probably going to be okay following that program. Because the thing is, it's not pulling and generating brand new stuff, it's pulling from inspiration that has happened in the past, which is the difference between generative AI and I guess this idea of regenerative AI and regurgitating what's already been said, whether it be right, wrong, or indifferent, right? So I even played around with this a little bit and said, hey, write me a 4-week program using Jenny Grimsley's philosophy based on what you can find on the internets, and it gave a pretty decent program. But the piece that was missing is the special sauce, in this case me, the special sauce that I'm able to layer onto that program that makes it even better. Because even when I program, it's pretty simple. We don't do a ton of sexy stuff, but we get and build consistency, and that's what makes it happen. And that requires the special touch of coaching. And so when life throws you that curveball and you need to pivot from that ChatGPT program, can you? Right? Because here's what the data actually tells us. And this is on traditional training programs, so let's don't get crazy here. But a large chunk of people, and the last stat I read was 70-90% of people who start a training program quit. They don't make it. They don't even make it to 6 months, right? And it's not because they're lazy, not because, maybe because they picked a bad program or the program wasn't the right fit for them. But a lot of times it's because they go into these programs on willpower alone. And that's the only thing that is driving them to do the next thing. And there's no system, no backstop, if you will. When things go sideways, they don't know what to do. And so the way I think about coaching and the way I think about AI and how these two pieces can actually blend together is, yeah, maybe I use AI to streamline some of my workflows. That allows me to help more people, to manage more clients. But it's not the thing that's actually coaching and interacting with the people. It's a tool, it's not the only tool. And and the way I kind of look at it is I'm using my coaching skills as a GPS. So if you're going on a trip and you're driving along and you've plugged it into your Google Maps or Apple Maps or Waze or whatever you're using, right? It's going to point you in the direction of your destination. Now, you start driving, you follow the speed limit, everything's going great, you're making good time, and then boom, red light, or boom, accident on the freeway, or boom, road's closed, but Google didn't pick it up. It happens, right? But a good GPS will reroute you around those things and still get you to your destination. A good coach does the exact same thing with your program because at the end of the day, it's not just the program piece that coach is coaching to. Yes, there is some exercise and activity that goes along with it. But when you think about a complete and holistic program, it is the training, it's the nutrition, it's the hydration, it's the sleep, it's the stress management, it's the scheduling. Like all of those things go into making a complete and comprehensive program for a client if you've got a good coach. And then the piece that is the most important is being able to reroute when you run into traffic, right? You don't just hit the hurdle and say, all right, cool, I'm just going to stop here. This is it. But that's what a lot of people do when they go onto these training programs that aren't a good fit. They don't know what the hell they're doing. And then they quit because, again, the willpower was the piece that was driving them along the whole time. And so we miss a turn, you get lost, like the coach is there to get you back on track. So just remember, when you can find yourself a really good coach, even if they utilize AI or not, right? A good coach is your GPS to the goal that you've set for yourself. It's not just about them providing you the path, it's about giving you those redirects when they're needed. And at the end of the day, AI by itself, standalone, is just the original. It's MapQuest at this point. It can get you there, but oh man, do you run into the wrong road, make a wrong turn, you're in trouble. And then you're still going to be asking someone for directions, okay? So with that, if AI is like the OG MapQuest, and if you don't know what MapQuest is, you're probably too young to even be listening to these conversations, but I digress. And I don't want to dunk on AI too much, right? AI is awesome. Like it has streamlined so many of the day-to-day mundane tasks that I need to do that it has freed up so much time for me to make additional content like this. So I'm not here to complain by any means, and I'm also not here to talk junk on a tool that has helped me be more productive. But when someone uses it to write a workout program, and honestly, like I said, a lot of those programs are solid, but there's a lot that's missing. There's nuance, there's direct call-outs, certain philosophical things that just get missed when you're using these models, okay? So one of my friends built an upper body training program for this. They wanted some supplemental work, build out their shoulders. Like, Jenny, you got really nice traps. How do I get rounded delt caps like you? And again, exaggeration, but you get my point, right? And so this person is really good at prompting. But when you put it in there and it spits you out some random and arbitrary shoulder hypertrophy program, right? The AI is going to assume that everything outside of what you prompted is normal and fine, right? It's going to assume that everything is in its place unless you provide it with that context. And here's the thing about hypertrophy. Anytime you have a hypertrophy program, you can't just look at the training, because if you're only looking at the training, you're missing half of the equation. You also need to have the nutrition piece dialed in. If you are specifically looking to grow muscles, you have to eat in a caloric surplus in a diet founded in protein and supported with carbohydrates, and the micronutrients from the vegetables and all the other things have to be in there to support building muscle. And again, unless you're really good at prompting, which most people aren't, they use chat the same way they use Google. Hey, what's the answer to this? You miss a lot of the detail and a lot of the nuance. So in this case, the piece that was missing was the extra HIIT classes that she was doing on top of trying to build shoulders, and it ended up being just too much, and then eventually, right, she ran into an injury. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes, right? Again, I go back to the 70 to 90% of people don't make it to the 6-month mark on any program, much less one that's going to be generated by AI, because there's no buy-in, there's no accountability, right? You're missing that. Those are the big gaps. And that's where AI does fall short for a lot of people. And it's not the programming, because usually the programming, if you were just to look at it objectively, it's like, oh, that's not bad. But when you start looking at specific application of that programming, that's where things tend to fall off a little bit, okay? So how do we compare AI to a real live professional, someone who does this for their career coach? And I'm not talking about the brand new trainer that just started working over at the big box gym, who just got CPT certified and they're just like ready to help everybody. No, I'm talking about someone who has been in the trenches, has been in the same boat you are, and has seen a lot of the things over the years, right? So experience a lot of times trumps someone's excitement to get started as a trainer. Not to knock the youngins, but yeah, I've seen a lot in my career. And there's a couple big glaring gaps that AI misses as it relates to a real life coach. Now, there are also some gaps, and I could go through those, that a lot of coaches in general miss as well. But here's the big thing. Gap number one, I should say, unless you provide it with context, AI doesn't know anything about you. Okay, so when I start working with a client, we go through an entire questionnaire. I have lots of follow-up questions. I have some movement assessments that I need to see, right? Like, I want to do a deep dive on who this person is, what it is they're looking for, what they've done in the past, what injuries they have, how they're currently moving, what their current stress level is, right? Like a battery of things, so that I have a complete picture of what the hell I'm working with. Because without that, it makes it really tough to then appropriately help someone. Then I become just as bad as the AI, right? So, I'm asking about their sleep. What are they eating? How often are they eating, right? It's a lot of questions for someone who's not lazy, but someone who doesn't know the right questions to prompt the AI assistant with to get that answer, right? So AI doesn't really have any of that information unless you clearly provide it to them, right? It's going to build its program for the average fictional, I'll call it, person, right? And last time I checked, no one who's listening to this is a fictional average person. It just doesn't work that way, all right? So gap number 2. When you get AI to write your program, it's going to spit it out, and it's going to be a static program, okay? However, your life, it ain't static. Your training shouldn't be either, okay? So if you had a brutal week at work, you're just tired, exhausted, and you're running on 4 hours of sleep, that's probably not the day to go redline your workout. Now, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but maybe that's the day that you pull back on some of your intensity. But if you've got the printout of your AI-generated program, it's not going to tell you to do that. It's going to tell you to work at an 8 out of 10 intensity and hit a PR on every single lift if that's what you've prompted it to do, right? A good coach will tell you, hey, you know what? You got 4 good workout days in, this 5th one this week. Let's just take it easy, do a little bit of a walk. We'll live to fight another day, right? A good coach could tell you that. AI, you're not getting that feedback unless you're just sitting on your phone going back and forth with them. And then at that point, you're going to run out of tokens anyway. If you tweaked your knee and you need other exercises, unless you know what the exact mechanism of injury is, which most people don't, you're not going to be able to describe it to AI well enough to get an exact answer versus working with a human coach who has worked with thousands of other athletes. They'll have a pretty good idea of what to adjust, how to adjust, and help make tweaks in real time. Okay? I mean, listen, your program should be fluid, not static, right? And a good coach will adapt based on that premise alone. You're not just writing a program and saying, hey, go stick to it. I wish you the best. It's like, no, dog. You need a little feedback on that so that we can match the work to the person. Okay? So AI give you a good idea of a plan, but it doesn't give you a relationship with that plan. And that's what you get from a good coach. Okay? The third gap that I've noticed is AI can't address nutrition in the exact context. Now, it can have a pretty good idea, but in this regard, your training and your nutrition are not separate but equal things. They actually work together to build the body that you see every day in the mirror. So a lot of times when you're plugging in your information into the prompt as it relates to training, it sees it in a silo. Then you open another chat to talk about the nutrition, and that is also opened in a silo. And those two don't necessarily talk together. And so if you think about it, fitness is probably only about a third training, and the rest is 2/3 lifestyle. And that lifestyle includes nutrition, sleep, stress management, all of those things, right? So it can help you with a meal plan. It can write out the macros. It can write out the whole doggone meal plan. It can write out the grocery shopping list, but it's not going to hold your hand when it comes time to eating, to cooking, to meal prepping, to overcoming your boredom with rice and chicken and some veggies with a little bit of sauce. Like, that's not the role of AI in this case. That's actually the role of the coach, is to help you troubleshoot in the moment, to help with the nutrition, right? So it can give you a workout plan, but it's not going to flag you for eating 60 grams of protein in a day when you should be up around the 120 mark, right? So that's what the coach is for. The coach is there to provide the bridge between your training and nutrition. And again, this is not the coach giving you the meal plan, because that's something that most coaches can guide you with macros and guide you with eat this, not that, where a registered dietitian will be the one to help you with specific meal plans, especially if you have a cardiometabolic or any sort of chronic disease, especially if that's you. But for the most part, right, that AI bot's not going to check in with you after a long weekend of chilling with the girls and maybe a bachelorette party or whatever the heck you guys are doing on the weekend, okay? Gap number 4. It's the behavioral side of things that really matters more to achieving goals as an adult than it does as an athlete. As an athlete, you could will your way through things. Like, you got to wake up to go train. You just do it. You figure out a way to get it done. You rest when you can. You push when you absolutely have to. Life's not like that once you hang the sneakers up. And so the coach is there to help you make those better decisions, like at 10 o'clock when you really want that sleeve of Oreos and a bucket of ice cream, to have a few Oreos and just a bite or two of ice cream, right? Or to help you work through things when you're stressed or you're not seeing results or things have plateaued, right? This is where the collaboration really comes in handy, because you need the back and forth. You need to discover more context. If it were me and I'm working with you, I ask more questions than I will ever give advice, because I need the context to give you the next viable step that's going to get you back on track. You don't need the top 10 tips for whatever ChatGPT created for you. That's just not how that works. And it's not often going to help you make a better call in the moment. Whereas working with a coach, there's an education component that helps teach you the different things and different actions to take, an if then that type situation. And it'll help the coach will help talk you off the ledge when things go sideways, right? Like, hey, come on back. We're not going to quit this. We're going to keep going. And really there's encouragement in there as well. So as much as they are advice givers, guides, they're also a listening ear and often an open heart to help understand where you're coming from as a human, not as a humanoid robot type situation with no feelings, okay? So with those 4 gaps in mind, I guess the question now becomes, what do you actually get from working with a coach? Like, what are the tangible things, or maybe some intangibles, that you get from working with a true professional? And for me, it's a pretty straightforward answer, and I don't know if this will be surprising to you, but it's accountability and guidance. The same things you got from your coaches when you were playing basketball or playing softball or whatever sport you played, right? It's the same 2 things that made you a really good athlete. Someone was there to hold you accountable, and someone was there to show you the way. And those 2 things work hand in hand really nicely, because when you have that guidance, that means you have a voice that can help cut through the noise. And right now, last time I checked the internet, which was just a little bit ago, there's a lot of freaking noise out there, right? If you go and pick up your phone and say, how do I do a training? Stupid as that is, you're going to get a lot of different answers in that query. That's just how it works, right? And a lot of times the information you get is going to be conflicting. It's Pilates versus powerlifting. It's CrossFit versus Orange Theory. It's Hyrox is the only way to train. Like all of these things that are popular and trending right now in the moment. You know, the things that have stood the test of time. Lifting weights. Doesn't matter if you're talking barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells. We'll generalize those all into lifting weights to get strong. Doing a little bit of movement to build a little bit of endurance, and to eat well. Like those are the 3 things that have survived the test of time. Yet we get caught up in protein maxing, like I talked about last week, in eating enough fiber, or now the whole thing is, dates. Dates are the most popular snack for fitness people. Like, guys, come on. When I was growing up, dates was the thing that helped you go to the bathroom. Now people are like, oh yeah, it's the fiber. All right, so you get the coach to guide you through all of that stuff. And when things go sideways, right, accountability is the other side of that. You say you're going to do something, they're going to make sure that you do it. And if you don't, they're going to be there to let you know what the consequences are. Now, it's not like this coach is going to make you get on the line. It's more of a holding you to a standard that you've set for yourself, right? We become the enforcer in a lot of ways because if you could have done it on your own, and this is going to sound harsh, if you could have done it on your own, you would have done it by now. But because you haven't been able to, that's why the coach is there to help you. They're not there to punish you. And I think it's funny. I recently started coaching at a gym here in town, and a lot of the clients are like, oh yeah, I just got to come in and get punished, and I just want to see what these guys have on deck for me today. And I'm like, that's cool, but I see how you look and I see how you move, and the punishment idea that you think you're getting is not actually helping you achieve the goals that you've stated that you have, right? The coach is there to hold you to a standard, because when you have multiple people working towards the same goal, it makes it a lot easier, right? And having a coach isn't a luxury, right? It's the person who sees your numbers, who knows when you're slacking, or also if you're genuinely struggling, like they know the difference. And that's the structure that actually makes the coach valuable, okay? So as I'm thinking about coaches, I keep coming back to this idea of a project manager. And I've worked with some fantastic project managers in the past, from my time in a corporate role to my time, working as a PT manager, just being a personal trainer. Like I've worked with a fair amount of project managers, and the best ones have the same skill set that a lot of the best trainers that I see out there. It's the same skill set, right? They're good with deadlines, clarity of communication, quality of work, right? Understanding milestones, setting up the plan. Like, good trainers do the same thing, because if I'm managing a project, you become my project, right? And the most important thing I think a project manager understands is all of the variables involved. Because if you don't and you only focus on one or two things, you're going to miss out on something that's going to make the whole system work. And it's funny, and I know I'm taking a pause here, but I'll be honest with you. Like, coaches can fall into the trap of being too much of a cheerleader. I've seen it. I still see it. I saw it this morning at the gym, right? They're too much of a cheerleader, of a, come on, yeah, you got it. Keep going, keep pushing, high five, good game, all that stuff, right? That's not actually helping you do it. Yeah, it might be motivating in the moment, but there's no clear directive that you can take action against. Okay, come on, go harder. What if I'm going as hard as I can, right? And I think for a lot of trainers, and this is for my trainer crew out there, so don't get offended, we need a little bit more project manager in our skill set than we do cheerleader. Now, the cheerleader part is important because you have to have good rapport and relationship with your clients, which is I'm going to give you energy. Whether you bring the energy or not, I'm bringing it to you. But you also have to remember, we're human. And as a coach, I love watching people win. And for me, sometimes it's easier to celebrate the small wins than to have the tough conversation. But I've learned over the years, we can do both. You can have a coach who is a cheerleader and keeps you going and keeps you motivated, but isn't afraid to have the tough conversation to let you know when you're slipping up, right? They know when to tell you the truth, and they know when to give you the high five, right? And if you have that coach, then you found a good one, right? But if your coach is all hype and shit talk and like there's no structure to what you're doing and it's just something different every time, then that's probably why you're not hitting your goal. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you have specific goals and specific outcomes that you're chasing, you need a coach who can provide that structure. So I say all that. Like I said, I wasn't going to dunk on AI, and I managed to end up dunking on the industry that I work in. That's the way it goes sometimes, right? But here's the thing. Here's the big takeaway. AI is not the enemy of my career path as a coach, right? You guys benefit from it. When I'm working with you, yeah, I've got streamlined things running in the background because I can't be all things to all people as a company of one, right? I've got to find some efficiency somewhere. But the thing that I refuse to create efficiencies around is the relationship that I have with my clients. Reviewing analytics and going through all that stuff, yeah, I use AI to make a summary so I know what I need to coach on and what I need to have a conversation about. But I don't let it replace the conversation because I don't think it can actually do that yet. And I don't know that it ever will be, right? AI can't build a relationship with you, but I can, right? And if your coach knows you well enough and knows that, whatever you need to do to make it happen, then that's good. But you need a system that evolves with you, not one that stays static. And I can't stress this enough. There has to be a human side to the process. If not, the program is not a coach, right? And a really good program still isn't a coach. So it doesn't matter how well you prompt your AI, it's just not going to work for you. And part of it is because information has been democratized, right? You can find anything you could possibly want on the interwebs, right? You can find someone who knows how to coach you, right? But the thing the AI machine can't tell you is what's going on with your body because it can't see you, right? So unless you've got some sort of cool 3D scan, internal, external, right? Like, it also doesn't know your history, it doesn't know your schedule, it doesn't know your tendencies, right? There's still a long way to go before you actually don't need a coach, right? And and I share all this because I just want you to know, like, coaching is still valuable. There will always be things that you have blind spots to, even with your AI, because however you prompt your AI is going to be biased to your tendencies, the things you like, right? And so having that extra set of eyes can be huge. So I say all that to say, if you haven't had a coach in the past for your health and fitness, now we've all had coaches. You, me, everybody who listens to this has had a coach because we played a sport. However, if you haven't had one in a while, reach out. Let's have a conversation, because I hate to see people like you just keep going in these vicious cycles of, I try to get fit, something happens, I fall off. I try to get fit, something else happens, I fall off. And you end up just going in circles and not really making any progress one way or the other. And worse, you go back. And that's not what I want from you and not what I want for you. Okay? So if you'd like, let's set up a call. I'm just here to listen and maybe give you some direction on what you could do to take that next step. And if you've got a good coach, give them a hug, give them a high five, give them a good game if you've got that kind of relationship. And until next time, we'll talk soon.